The project is entitled Conflict Trauma, Scars and Tattoos, which I'm exploring in detail over a wide variety of aspects. This particular project part, I'm looking at the landscape and scars and tattoos on the landscape. And this particular image grabbed me because it's a fairly basic landscape image, but it's dominated by power stations you can see on the horizon. And there's two obvious power stations. In actual fact, on that horizon, there are remnants of 4 power stations in Nottinghamshire. I'm actually standing in Lincolnshire taking a photograph, and those power stations are, let's say, in a different county in Nottinghamshire, probably about 8 to 10 kilometres away. The photograph was taken at dusk, and I just wanted to show really that the power stations dominate the whole landscape for miles and miles around. And using the black and white format, I wanted to show that power stations dominated the image. I imagine looking at the cooling towers that they are coal-fired power stations. I'm a very pragmatic person, and although I would rather not have those scars on the landscape, I would just rather see an unblemished vista stretching out in front of me. I do appreciate that we need to have power stations, and they have to go somewhere. So if I was going to look at this from an emotive point of view in terms of using the landscape and the skyscape, in fact, to get in touch with my emotions, if I was considering sort of sending messages to loved ones that are no longer with us, that kind of thing, I would look at it from the point of view that the scars on the landscape wouldn't really affect me. I would be able to separate out the scars on the landscape from the emotional side of what I was trying to do, and I would be able to discount those scars. If I was going to do that sort of exercise, I would be considering more the skies and the emotion of the skies. So I'm not trying to impose my interpretation of my emotions onto anybody. I would much rather they just view the image and took from it or put into it what they want to get out of it, basically. Okay, so looking at this image with the pylons and the trees, and the reason for those trees to be flat-topped as they are is basically to make sure they don't encroach on the power lines and potentially cause the power lines to short out the power grid. There's obviously a debate there as to whether the trees should have been allowed to have stayed there at all, whether they should have been removed, or indeed whether they should have sited the pylons elsewhere. But in this image, I wanted to show that the pylons and the power cables are an intrusive object on the landscape. They are a scar on the landscape, extending for quite some distance. But obviously, again, we need the power grid, so we need to have the ability to distribute power. The whole composition was very deliberate, and I wanted to emphasise the whole scale of things, but also the fact that although these pylons are large and they go on in the distance, in the grand scheme of the whole world, they aren't that big. So the whole negative space towards the centre and the right was basically designed to emphasise that point. On the right-hand side, you might see what looks to be a smudge in the sky, and that is actually remnants of a practice display by the Royal Air Force Aerobatics League Red Arrows. So that's not a smudge, it's not a dirty lens, it's actually a remnant of a training sorting by the RAF's Aerobatics League. So yeah, that's that image basically. Man can override nature. Obviously, if the trees were left to grow unstunted, man has the arrogance to think he can control nature. We can, but only to a degree. One of the things that stands out is that the trees are obviously not natural, they've obviously been manipulated. They do look synthetic, yeah, the trees do indeed look